G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for being here and giving me the privilege and opportunity to entertain you for the next 20, 30, maybe 50 minutes. Who knows? But we do know it's Tuesday, which means it's a news day. So let's take a look what happened this week or last week in the world of rugby. So obviously the Northerners sweep the Southerners on a clean sweep. Everybody won. Historical wins in different uncharted territories all over the world. Lots of finger pointing, lots of hashtag cancel, lots of hashtag fire head coaches everywhere. And and there's a lot of talk about the law, about the yellow cards, red cards. So I just want to quickly give you guys, there's a lot of discussions on my other video as well following the All Blacks game about yellow cards and red cards. A lot of you guys made the point that the red card and yellow card was kind of stupid because they're unavoidable. And it's ruining the game. There's no way you can play the game without giving away red cards or yellow cards in a situation that happened to the All Blacks on the weekend. Now, let me just give you the reality of the things, okay? The reality of the current situation is World Rugby is getting sued, including former players from New Zealand. Kyle Heyman is suing World Rugby. He has early onset of dementia. So there's no way in hell World Rugby is going to revert the interpretation of the law. It is what's going to be. Anything above shoulder, any contact with the head is going to be a red, and then with the mitigating factor considered to reduce that down to a yellow. That's the way it's going to be. Okay? There's no point crying about it. It's not going to change. That's number one. Number two, here's the reality of the things. A lot of you guys are talking about the game is unplayable. A lot of these red cards is unavoidable. That's not true. It is avoidable. And here's the rub. The Northerner teams has taken the initiative to tidy up their discipline. And as a result, they have done really, really well to avoid putting themselves in a position for a yellow card and red card. And we are falling behind. Australia and New Zealand, we are falling behind. That is the reality. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, I'm about to talk about right here. Six Nations 2022. In 2021, almost every team had a red card in 2021. And in 2022, for the full season, for the entire season of Six Nations, of 5 rounds between 6 teams, there was only 2 red cards. One from Italy, one from England. And here's the stats. That's probably going to scare you. France and Ireland went through the entire season of Six Nations. Now, France is the undefeated Grand Slam champions. Both France and Ireland went through the entire season of the Six Nations without conceding a single card. So both these teams has taken the initiative to train their players to be safe. It's not impossible. It's not a position. It's not something that's unavoidable. It is avoidable. It is possible. You're telling me France and Ireland can play a whole season without conceding a single card, yet yet New Zealand gets 3 in the 40 minutes. That it's not the rules, it's not the law that is at fault here. Something is wrong with the coaching, with the training, with the teams themselves. And if you're a Kiwi, ask yourself this question. If this is 2015 All Blacks with Richie McCaw as the captain, do you think they're going to be crying in the media about the laws being interpreted, too many yellow cards, too many red cards? You know what Richie McCaw would have done? They would have gone out of their way, tried extra hard, and made sure that the All Blacks is never going to concede a yellow card ever again. Most disciplined team in the world. That's what the All Blacks do. Not crying about the law being, unfair to you? What are you crying about, Fozzie? It's time to wake up. It's time to make a change. It's not going back. That's the reality. No matter how hard you cry, it's not going back. And if you don't take the initiative, like France and Ireland, and many of the Northerners team has been doing so, and including South Africa has been doing so, you know what's going to happen? The All Blacks, you're going to get eliminated in the quarterfinals next year. You're going to be playing against Ireland or South Africa in the quarterfinals. And if you can't handle the current laws of the way the law is interpreted, you're going to be hope that you win with 14 players against the Springboks or against Ireland. Otherwise, you're going home. You better figure out a way to win with 14. Otherwise, you're going home in the quarterfinals. That's the reality. And it's not impossible. The Northerners are doing it. We're falling behind. This is a wake-up call for every team in the Pacific region. We need to make a change in the team. So with that being said, I was just looking at this. I went through all the stats of the season. 2 red cards. And there was only 6 yellow cards over 5 rounds. So, and France and Ireland didn't consider a single yellow card. There you go. There you go. It's not impossible. And this kind of trickles into the next point. Over the weekend, the Northerners skyrocketed in their rankings. France beat Japan in a pretty close match, to be fair. Japan actually did really well. Propelled themselves into the... But this was mostly because the South Africa and New Zealand lost points. So France propelled themselves to the number 1 spot. Ireland moves from 4 to 2nd after a huge win in New Zealand. New Zealand lost extra points for being at home. And South Africa lost extra points for being at home as well. And so did New Zealand. So both South Africa and New Zealand dropped to 3rd and 4th. England went up a bit after beating Australia. Scotland climbed a bit after beating Argentina. And Wales climbed, obviously, quite a bit after beating the Springboks, who was ranked number 1 last week. So, yeah. What are we going to do? Are we going to decide on crying to the media and try to revert the law? That's not going to happen. Or are we going to make a decision like France and Ireland did and aim for a more disciplined performance coming into the World Cup? It's your decision, Fozzie. So obviously, we just talked about this. France, number 1 team in the world, beat Japan in the 2nd round against Japan. This was actually a much better performance by Japan. Very close call. Japan was winning against France till like 70th minute or something. It was really close before France finally put Japan away, 20 points to 15. Really good outings for the Japanese side. A lot of experience, a lot of good game management by the Japanese team. The French looked noticeably frustrated playing against Japan. And yeah, it was a really good result regardless for Japan. This is like a really good margin as well. So almost top of the Grand Slam champions. Quite a good effort there. Next up, so there were some talks. Obviously, we've already talked about this. Fozzie taking a swipe about the too many cards. Went too far. Mate, you're at fault. You're the coach. I don't know what to say. I just gave you the stats. If France can play a whole season in the Six Nations, I'm pretty sure Jaco Pepper was actually one of the referees during the Six Nations as well. Yeah, you can't. I mean, it's just like you're just falling behind, mate. You're falling behind. You're falling behind the pack. And obviously, there's a lot of talk about Fozzie as the head coach. Depends on your opinion. Depends on what you think. I do think that Fozzie probably needs some help. To be frank, if you know, I think he's locked into 2023, and he does need some help. I think he might need to bring in Razor. He definitely needs to bring some tackling coaches and training coaches to you know, rectify the tackling issues, the high tackling issues in the team, the dangerous, reckless play issues in the team. He needs to bring in some help for sure. So whatever your thoughts are, put it in comments down below. So there is some talk about Sam Kang being a liability in the team. So obviously, when I see these sort of accusations, we have to look at the stats from the players before making a decision. So I went kind of through the stats from the before we go to the stats, so some talks about Sam being a liability. Obviously, there was an incident during the game as well. So Peter Armani had a bit of a push and shove with Sam Kang, and then basically said, "Who do you think you are? You are shit, Richie McCaw, pal." bit of a low blow. But to be fair, Richie McCaw is like the greatest ever. So shit version of Richie McCaw is still pretty good. To be fair, if you're like just a little bit worse, still pretty good because since Richie is by far the best. So as a result, there's a bit of talk about Sam Cane. People just thought he is not performing. People think that he should be, dropped. So I had a look at the stats. Obviously, when it comes to loose forwards, it's all about the tackle count. It's all about the work rate. It's all about just the impact. It's about defensive. It's about defense largely. So I had a look about, the stats. So I think the call is pretty wrong. Sam Cane, by far the highest work rate in the team. If you are going to replace somebody, Dalton Papali'i is probably below in the work rate in that blindside flanker position. 14 tackles, by far the most tackle count in the team. I don't he only missed one tackle, so pretty high completion rate as well. I think he had a few carries as well. We have here Sam Cane, 7 carries. 7 runs and 4 passes, 10 meters, but that's what he does. Just get the ball and track it up really hard. So a pretty high run rate as well in terms of 4-pack. There's only a few forwards that did more runs than him. I don't think the call is quite warranted for him to be dropped. I do think that maybe Papali'i is the one who should be dropped looking at the stats. But yeah, 4 runs as opposed to 7, and in terms of tackle count, definitely a lot lower. So let's quick look at the discipline. Yeah, nothing too crazy. 1 penalty conceded, nothing too crazy here. Like pretty standard stuff for something that you would expect with who's making 14 tackles at breakdown, giving away 1 penalty. So it's maybe Papali'i is the one that's underperforming, not Sam Cane, but that's some of the fake media is talking about getting rid of Sam Cane. But I do think, just based on the work rate alone, he is by far doing everything he can as the captain. So I really can't fault him for that. There was some confusion in the game that Savia was not able to come back onto the field after he was taken off due to an uncontested scrum that had to be formed. So it was a bit of a weird situation. Basically, both the tight head props were taken off due to red and a yellow card for the All Blacks. And as a result, they had to go to uncontested scrum. They had to bring Aiden Ross onto the field, and Adi Savia had to go off. So the initial issue, there was actually 2 issues there. So when Adi Savia came off, there should have been an extra player that came off as well. So the fact that the All Blacks had to initiate the uncontested scrummaging means that the All Blacks had to lose 1 additional player. So Adi Savia and 1 other player, maybe Dalton Papali'i, needed to come off. But the referee missed that, so only Adi Savia had to come off. So when Adi comes off, when the yellow card was over, Aiden Ross comes back out, and the loose set, who was it? Was it Tuanga Fasi returns onto the field? Adi Savia was not allowed back on because he was like the official player that was taken off for the red card, essentially. Does that make sense? Because you needed a prop to fill, because it was a prop that had a red card, and you needed a prop to fill that prop position. So Adi Savia is basically the sacrifice for that prop being put onto the field for that red card. So as a result, he was not able to return onto the field. There was a bit of confusion because they wanted to bring Papali'i out and put Adi Savia back onto the field. But the reality is that if they did that, that means the All Blacks would have had an extra substitution for the game. It means that the All Blacks would have had, essentially had 9 substitutions on the bench instead of 8. So the referee made the right decision. The All Blacks, probably to their own fault, if they actually took out an extra player due to the red card, due to the uncontested scrums, if the ref haven't missed that and they're taking off both, say, Adi Savia and Papali'i, then they could have said, "Oh, we'll put Adi Savia back on for the red card." But yeah, it was kind of like their own management issue. They should have taken off Papali'i in the first place instead of Adi Savia. So that is their mistake to begin with, to be quite frank. They should have just taken off Papali'i with the initial substitution instead of taking Adi Savia off. So it's kind of like the All Blacks mismanagement there. But yeah, that it is what it is. So obviously we'll have more calls for deliberate knock-ons. There was 1 yellow card for both teams in the Australia-England match for deliberate knock-on. One of them was pretty obvious. I think it was Isaiah Peresi, pretty obviously wasn't able to get it, knocks the ball up, and there was people saying that, oh, he knocked the ball up, that's not a knock on. But yeah, there's no such thing as deliberate knockdown. There's a lot of misconception that it's only a penalty if you knock the ball down, but in the actual law, the wording is deliberate knock on. So it doesn't matter if you knock it down, knock it up, knock it left or right. It's a penalty. If the ball goes forward, it's a penalty. It doesn't matter which way you knock it. So obviously, Eddie Jones had that same issue, probably to a lesser extent. Marcus Smith almost looked like a reflex, touched his hand during a pass, and yeah, another deliberate knock on, 2 yellow cards. I felt like this had to be done because otherwise the players, it is the owner of it is the players' job to make sure that they don't just randomly knock the ball on to stop play. If you think about it, right? If the deliberate knock on is not a penalty, team would just do this for scrummaging all day, right? We'll just deliberately knock it on for scrummaging all day, especially a team that has a scrum advantage like the Springboks. They would just be like, hey, let's knock the ball on. Not only that we can stop the opposition from attack, but we get a scrummaging, which we have advantage on. So it could easily be abused. So I don't know how you can change this law, how you can change the interpretation of this law if you knock it up. I mean, it's so easy for play. The difference between knocking a ball down and knocking a ball up, it really makes no difference if the intention is to disrupt the attack flow, right? So they definitely, I don't know how they can even change this law. I just feel like it is up to the coach, it is up to the players to manage themselves. So next up, more news from Wallabies. Quade Cooper basically completely out for the series. He was out moments before the first game about to kick off. He said his calf tightened up. So they did some more testing and scan. He's basically out for the entire series. So he won't be available for the third test either. So that's for Quade. Speaking of injuries, a lot more injuries occurred for both teams, for Wallabies and England. So Wallabies has called in a few players. Nawaga Nitawase comes in from the Waratahs, and also I think there was another one. Salakai Lotto comes in as well. Yeah, Salakai Lotto comes in for the Wallabies, and Wallabies also had. Why is this in such a weird angle? Here we go. Wallabies also has quite a few injuries. Fresh injuries came out of last week. So Jordan Patea gets a HIA. Isaiah Parisi has a groin injury. Is it? Oh no, not groin injury. Left leg injury. I think he has a leg injury essentially. And these guys basically, joins Tom Banks, Andrew Callaway. Both are injured. I think there was some more. Yeah, Caden Neville has a suspected MLC injury. Alana Toa had a concussion. Len Ikitau has a calf injury. So yeah, so many people are injured for the Wallabies team. So that's going into this third test. The depth of the Wallaby team is really going to be tested. But the England side also suffered some big losses as well. Mauro Itoje, probably the best player in the England forward pack. He's out. His work at the breakdown is very, very tremendous. He ran into the brick wall called Hunter Paisami and knocked himself out, essentially trying to make a tackle. And he just, completely knocked himself out running into a brick wall. So Hunter Paisami is made of iron, this guy. You really like funny to see like someone almost double the size or look like towering over Paisami runs into him and just like lays down flat afterwards. Yeah, really interesting to see. So Itoje is out due to concussion. Underhill is out also due to concussion, who is also like quite a important guy who brings a lot of breakdown speed for the England side as well. And England also already having so many injuries currently, so they're already missing Tom Curry. So in a loose forward, in the forward pack, a lot of their bulk, a lot of their experience is gone. Yeah, so Tom Curry is out already. They have who else is out? So basically a few of their really important back rowers are missing from the England side going to third test. So I'm not too worried that Australia might not win this one. I think Australia might still have a good chance due to the injuries that England suffered in some of their core players. Also, Wales versus Springboks. A lot of talks about the Springboks. last week bringing on the B team, making 14 changes in the starting team, and almost winning the game, but with Anscombe coming onto the field, really showed a lot of experience, a lot of flair, a lot of intelligent play, and did something Dan Biggar couldn't do for like 65 minutes, setting up a try for the Wales, really utilizing the width, utilizing that quick ball. As a result, Wales beating Springboks the first time in Springboks home in South Africa, first time ever. And man, just look at that cloud on top of that mountain, man. That is so cool. Jesus, that's like a different planet right there. That's awesome. But anyway, so as a result, Wales is also suffering their own injuries. Alex Cuthbert is out. And then for the Springboks, Andrew Esterhuizen is out as well for the Springbok side. So both teams suffering a couple of big injuries as from following the second test. So then the Scotland beat Argentina in the third test, 29-6. This was Argentina's national day. This was a really, flat performance by Argentina. They were, the fact that they didn't score any tries on the scoreboard is not exactly true. They did go over the try line multiple times, Argentina, and just little thing like, knock-ons, held up. I think there was maybe one in touch, you name it. They had like, an absurd amount of tries that was spoiled by the Scottish over the try line. So the scoreboard probably showed look a lot worse than it actually was in the game. The Scotland quite comfortably beat Argentina 29 points to 6. And there was some injuries as well from Argentina's side, like Pablo Matera wasn't able to play this game. I'm pretty sure he's probably expected to return. I think we're gonna look at this next item. Yeah, so he's gonna expect to return in the third test match. And also pretty sure what's his name, Sanchez is out. So a lot of that core players wasn't playing this test match. So going to the third one, having Pablo Matera back is gonna be at least a big boost for the Argentinian side. So another interesting decider ahead of us for that one. Some other news from rugby. Georgia beat Italy on the weekend, 28 points to 19. There was some talks about Georgia joining the Six Nations or have some kind of, like promotion or relegation. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen. But still, really, really, really good effort to beat a Six Nation team, 28 points to 19. The Georgian side has done quite well. Another one, the Namibia has qualified for the 2023 Rugby World Cup over Kenya. They beat Kenya 36-0 on the weekend, and they'll be joining the Pool A alongside the All Blacks and France. So All Blacks, France with Namibia, and that's the latest addition to the Rugby World Cup. Next up, the USA won their first leg of qualifying matches against Chile, 22 points to 21. This was played in Chile. And so the second game will be played in America, in Denver, I think. But as a result, the America is ahead of the race going into qualifying for the Rugby World Cup. They failed to qualify last year, but this is their second opportunity to qualify for that. So this match was a bit of interesting. There was a power outage during the match as well. So that's probably not going to happen in America next weekend. Hopefully, Denver. But that is some more news. And finally, that's the Pacific Nations Cup was played on the weekend as well. Tonga lost again to Samoa. The Australia A beating the Fijians. And that's kind of like what happened for all the rugby news on the weekend. Haven't missed anything? No, that is it. So let me know your thoughts, guys. Let me know your thoughts about the cards. I do think that it is time. It is time for the Southerners to take to adapt to the changing world. There's if you're a business person, if you work, if you're even if you're like if you're like a student, or if you play computer games or something, things change all the time. Nothing is the same. And if as a business or whatever you do in life, if you don't adapt, if you don't change, you're just gonna left behind. Survival of the fittest. natural selection. Crying, it's not going to solve any issues. And I think it's time for Australia and New Zealand to stop crying about the law and make a change. Make a change. It's not impossible. We can do it. Thanks for watching, guys. I do appreciate you being here. Like, comment, and subscribe. And see you guys a bit later for the team announcement. I'm pretty sure the Springboks announcement is going to come out soon. But I checked, as I was just before I make this video, it's not quite out yet. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. And I'll see you guys later this week for the team match lineups. Cheers.